Hi everyone, it's Larissa from Sputnik Moment, and today we are going to talk about cases. So when we talk about cases, we are talking about the individual assistance that we are providing to families and professionals. So let's go take a look at a case record. We're going to start on the contact record. So you need to have the person in Salesforce before you can create the case record. So we're going to start with Molly. And we can look at our related list. So a person can have more than one case as we can assist them multiple times. So let's go ahead and create a new case. So you're always going to start on the record of the person who initiated the case, whether that's a professional, a parent, or a self-advocate calling about themselves. So we're on Molly's record. We're going to click New Family Case. This is going to open a case record. So remember, a case record only captures the information pertaining to this specific issue that you're talking to them about. So by default, we've got a couple fields populated for us. We can change them if we want to. Because we started this from Molly's record, we have her name being populated, her household, and the case date automatically defaults to today. We can change it if we're entering a case from earlier in the week. We've got status, priority, case origin. Keep in mind your case layout may look slightly different from this, but the fields are all roughly the same. So how did this interaction happen? I'm going to select phone. Then if we scroll down, we can also link this case to the person she was calling about. I'm going to click the magnifying glass. By default, this is going to only show people who are in the same household as her. If she's calling about someone who is not in her household, you can remove this filter by clicking Show All Results. I'm going to select her child and scroll down to funding source. So in this example, we have this setup configured for PTI and F to F. So we have both things that we need to track for each grant. You may have both. You may have just PTI, you may have just F to F, you may have other programs. This is just an example of what you may or may not have. So we're going to have both boxes checked here. We want this to count towards both of these programs. So here we're in our F to F section, so we can select our insurance denied, our service denied or problem obtaining services. Then we have our outcomes. They should all look familiar. Select as many as apply to you. If we scroll down a little bit further, we have our PTI section. So we have a place where we can put a subject. We have our PTI issues. These may be a different list than what you have, but we need to select one primary issue and then we can select multiple additional issues. Case notes. So this is a description of the issue, case plan. Then we move down to resolution information. You may have something different here. You may have a way that you're resolving the issue, the assistance you're providing, internal referrals, external referrals, and then I'm going to go ahead and click Save. Now I want to take a minute and talk about a difference in setup that you might have. If you are a PTI and not an F to F, you may be using an object called interactions. In this PTI only setup, a case represents an issue and you can have multiple interactions related to a case. If you are an F to F, a case is going to represent an interaction and you're going to create a case every time you talk to someone. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about interactions here. So if this is my high-level issue, I can add interactions to this issue. So if you are just an F to F, you can ignore this part of the video. So let's say that I talked to Molly on the phone for 10 minutes and then we get off the phone and I send her an email or she calls me back and we talk again. I'm going to create an interaction record related to this case. So we talked on the phone again, we spent 20 minutes. I'm going to save it. Back on my case record, I now have 2 interactions related to this case. So a case for your PTI setup represents an issue, and you may have as many interactions as it takes to resolve the case. One other thing I want to point out on this PTI setup is when you create a case, an interaction is automatically created for that first case to represent that first interaction that you're having. So behind the scenes, information is being copied over from the case record onto your interaction record. So you won't need to create an interaction for that first interaction that you have about the case. For our F to Fs, you are not going to have this interaction. You are just going to create a case every time you have an interaction with someone. This clone button may come in handy. If I talk to Molly 3 times today about the same thing, I can go back to that case record, I can clone it, it's going to give me all the same information populated, and I can just put in my different notes here for each time I talk to her. So there's some other things we can do on our case record. We can add materials distributed if we are giving out or sending materials as part of a way to resolve our case. We can create those related to our case. We can add attachments to our case. If we have any relevant materials, such as a copy of an IEP or any other document that we might want to add to our case, we can scan it and attach it as a file to this case record. We can create tasks for ourselves to follow up on a case. If we need to follow up with a parent or a professional, we can create a task either for ourselves or for someone else to follow up. We can send an email. If we need to do any kind of follow-up or sending materials through Salesforce, we have the option to write from the case record, click on send an email, and from here we can type in what we want to put in the email, or we also have the option of selecting templates. If you have templates loaded in your system, you may or may not, here is where you can select your template and load it up. I'm going to send my email, and note that anyone who looks at this case record in the future will be able to see this email that I've sent to Molly. So that is a tour of our case record in Salesforce. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day.